Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Rathamadhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad His Divine Graces Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Shrimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, entitled The Summon Bonum, Chapter 43, The Killing. Krishna kills the elephant Kubalajapida. Text 31 to 33. Jane swevam brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyang abrabit Jane swevam brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyan abrabit Jane swevan brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyan abrabit. Please chant. Jane swevam brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyan abrabit. Taneswevam brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyang abrabit. Jane swevam brubaneshu turyeshu nidatatsucha Krishna Ramau samabhasya chanuro bhakyang abrabit. Janeshu, ask the people, evam, thus, Brubhaneshu, were speaking, Turyeshu, as the musical instruments, Nidadatsu, were resounding, Cha, and Krishna Ramau, Krishna and Balaram Samabhasya, addressing Chanuraha, the demonic wrestler Chanura. Vakyam, words. Abrabit, said. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While the people talk in this way, and the musical instruments resounded, the wrestler Chanura addressed Krishna and Balaram with the following words. Purport. Chanura could not tolerate that the audience was praising Krishna so highly. Therefore, he had to say something to the two brothers. Text number 32, translation. Well, actually I read the Sanskrit. He Nandasuno he Rama Bhavantau Vira Sammatau Niyudha Kalasau Srutva Rajahutao Didrikshuna. Chanura said, O son of Nanda, O Rama, you two are well respected by courageous men and are both skillful at wrestling. Having heard of your prowess, the king has called you here, wanted to see for himself. Text number 33. Priyan Rajna Prakurvatya Srejo Vidanti Vai Praja Manasa Karmana Vacha Viparitam Atonyatha. Translation. Subjects of the king who try to please him with their thoughts, acts, and words are sure to achieve good fortune, but those who fail to do so will suffer the opposite fate. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Romapada Swamin Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So, after the descriptions of Krishna entering the wrestling or the festival arena for the wrestling match that was arranged by Kansa, part of the scheme that Kansa has to kill Krishna and Balaram, after hearing all the inhabitants of Mathura, the man of Mathura, praising Krishna in such a wonderful way, appreciating Krishna, the envious Chanura and Mushtika and all the wrestlers, they had to speak something. It is explained that they actually couldn't tolerate the praise towards Krishna. We heard before, yesterday, Subakrit Prabhu brought this out, the description that Srila Sukadev Goswami said of the different people that were experiencing Krishna. And we spoke before about it. There were two different types of people. People who were favorable toward Krishna, and then people who were envious toward Krishna, animical toward Krishna. Among the animical ones, it is said that there were 10 different types of people that were described in that arena. 6 of them were favorable to Krishna, 4 of them were envious and unfavorable to Krishna. The 4 that were unfavorable to Krishna were the wrestlers, headed by Chanura and Mushtika, the kings that were connected or part of the followers of Kansa, demoniac kings, the brahmanas and ignorant people who were dismissing Krishna as just some ordinary living entity, person, ignorant about Krishna's position. And they were including among them were including the brahmanas who were doing the different yagyas, and they were servant of Kamsa. And Kansa himself, so these 4 people, the king, the king, the kings that were following the king, Kamsa, the brahmanas or so-called brahmanas who were serving Kamsa, and the wrestlers. And among the 6 people who were favorable to Krishna were the man and the women of Mathura. They were naturally born with natural prema towards Krishna. They had that type of inclination. The cowherd boys, the parents of Krishna, the Vrishnis and the Yadus who were present, and saintly persons or sages. Some of them were observing not in the stadium, but actually from the clouds. It is explained from the heavens that were actually hovering, and they also were watching. So the quality of those who were inimical towards Krishna, the quality that describes them is envy. And I'm going to read a little bit on the commentaries on these verses by the Vaishnava Acharyas, specifically in verse 31 of Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami comments. Again, that verse reads like this, right? The translation of the verse is, while people talk in this way and the musical instruments resounded, the wrestlers Chanura addressed Krishna and Balaram in the following words. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, while they were speaking in this way out of joy, their incomplete statements were interrupted by the sounds of instruments. Who were speaking? The residents of Mathura. And they were speaking with great joy. It is explained previously that Krishna is the giver of joy. So when you actually enter into this relationship with Krishna, the relationship itself gives you joy. It's actual joy. It's the joy of the soul. You tap into that, the happiness of the soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, the words that is used by Krishna to describe when you get a taste of that happiness, Krishna calls it the higher taste. We hear that phrase, that Srila Prabhupada used. You get a higher taste. Parandrishta nivartante is the verse that it says. That just a little thing that you do in devotional service will give you this paramdrishtva, this supreme taste, this higher taste. And that higher taste, even a little drop of that higher taste, change your consciousness. Now you can, once you taste that, you want more. So you keep, you can go back, So you keep going and keep going and keep going. You're affected. So for those persons who understand Krishna and enters into this relationship with Krishna, pure relationship, then they experience joy. So the residents of Mathura were experiencing this joy, and they were expressing their joy by glorifying Krishna. And then you see the envious part, the opposite, they're trying to oppose to that. Then you have the musicians who were part of the festivities organized by Kansa. They were servants of Kansa. They were playing those instruments even harder. Boom, 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 and then trying to drown the praising of the residents of Vrindavan, or the residents of Mathura. And you can match the scene, it's like a coliseum, Back in time in the Roman Empire, there was one of the main features of the ancient city of Rome is this big stadium, the Colosseum. It is said that was able to accommodate about close to 20,000 people. For those days, that was something, it was like seeing a marvel or a creation to hold that much people. And it was, for entertainment, for sports. Obviously, the sports that they will see at that time was not like baseball or soccer or football, It was gladiators fighting against each other, and the winner would live, and the loser would die. So the famous thumb down, of Caesar to kill the guy. So you can imagine that scene. Also, Kamsa built this big stadium, basically. And they were full with people. And the people were praising Krishna, but the instruments were sounding loud, So this is what Sri Jiva Goswami is saying. Their incomplete statements were interrupted by the sounds of instruments. These talks show that it was impossible to stop them from speaking, since they were the majority, and indicated that their words were true. The sounds of the instruments indicate that the envy of the wrestlers had for Krishna and Balaram. The music sounded continuously, showing the wrestlers' enthusiasm for fighting. Addressing the boys, the wrestler spoke. Chanura spoke words. The sentence indicates that he will speak something important. He will speak cruel words. Or, Vakyam can mean Avakyam. Chanura Avakyam Abrabit. Chanura spoke unsuitable words. Because he was envious. The words of the inhabitants of Mathura were true, and they were the majority, and they understood Krishna. They understood Krishna in truth, in tattva. And therefore, they were at that moment, they were able to enter into a rasa with Krishna. The rasa that was described of the inhabitants of Mathura was this Abduta rasa. It's one of the secondary relationship or rasas or moods that we have with Krishna. There's 12 of them. We spoke about it. and 5 and primary, 7 and secondary. So the secondary ones enhances the primary ones. So this Abduta means wonder. Wow, such a beautiful, powerful personality. So they start to praise Krishna with this wonder, this astonishment of seeing Krishna's opulence and power and beauty. And that enhances their relationship. They have a relationship of servitorship. So their words were true. On the side of the envious personalities headed by these wrestlers, their words were unsuitable, avakyam. They were cruel and unsuitable. So although when we hear Chanura addressing Krishna, one can say polite. He was very polite. He actually addressed Krishna. He in one sense praised Krishna. But behind those words, they were envy. They were dismissing. They were disregarding. His sentiments was like that. So behind the words, there were other meanings. In his mind is another meaning. Is Krishna, is trying, basically saying to Krishna, you have to fight us. This is why you're here. So, he praises Krishna, but with the idea is that you're going to fight me and I'm going to kill you. Like that. So that was this mentality. In text number 32, again, the words of Chanura. He addresses Krishna as, O son of Nanda, O Rama, you too are well respected by courageous men and are both skillful at wrestling. Having heard your prowess, the king has called you here, wanted to see for himself. So, he's basically saying the purpose that they here is to fight. And here Srila Jiva Goswami is very interesting. Pay attention to this one. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on this verse. He addressed them, Chanura, O son of Nanda, O Rama. So the mentality, Srila Jiva Goswami is going to reveal the mentality of this wrestler demon. By addressing Krishna as the son of Nanda, he indicates that Nanda was his true father. He addressed Balaram as Rama, meaning that he gave pleasure to all people to encourage him to fight. But the wrestler intended to show the low birth of Krishna from a cowherd family. So he was disregarding Krishna. So when he said, "Oh, son of Nanda," he was saying it's like son of a farmer, your farm boy type of thing. Like here, we're powerful wrestlers. We're people, we're assistants of the king. You come into the city, little farm boy, son of a farmer. So it means an insult. And by not mentioning Balaram's lineage, indicates that his parentage was not known. So he's saying, we don't even going to mention your lineage. We don't know who your parents are. So it's mean, it's cruel. Behind the things, there's cruelty, there's meanness. He appears polite, but the heart is mean, is envious. in order to take away their glory by mocking them. You are respected by man as being courageous. The king has heard you are skillful at wrestling. He wants you to wrestle. Since the king wants to see you, you must be qualified. Thus, you should participate in this fight, because of the contrary mean of the words, his statement is meant to mock them. So this is the mentality of this ugly demon. Quite in contrast of the words of sincerity and devotion of the people of Mathura. So in text number 33, they continue saying, translation again, subjects of the king who try to please him with their thoughts, acts, and words are sure to achieve good fortune. But those who fail to do so will suffer the opposite fate. So they tell him, you better fight us, and we definitely will kill you. So don't try to, fruitcake on us, So you're here, and you're here to please the king, and you better please the king by fighting us. You're making sure, that they're not going to, when seeing these wrestlers were described as mountains, gigantic, big guys, powerful. And, Krishna and Balaram were 11 years old. It is described that their features were very beautiful and refined and like that, against these big, things, big monstrous, wrestlers, powerful. So make sure that they're not going to cower on them, which, just come to think, like, they must have got the information of Krishna killing all these powerful demons. He just killed, not so long ago, the big elephant, a moment ago, the 8,000-pound elephant that had the power of thousands of elephants together. And then previously, not so long ago, he killed the great Keshi demon, and so on. All these powerful demons. But these guys, you see what envy does, that you become covered and you don't see reality. You just see the reality that is centered in you. I'm powerful and I'm invincible. And that's my reality. I don't see anything else. I don't see anything that challenges that reality. So, Srila Jiva Goswami comments, you should not refuse this. The scripture speaks of the proper conduct. Prakurbantya is poetic license. The citizens attain material benefit of artha, sreyaha, in pleasing the king. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments on this verse. To do the opposite is not proper. Pleasing the king by mind, acts, and words brings the best result. The citizens must please the king. Vai means well known. So all this is well known. It's just, it's civilized word. It's a reality. Or pleasing the king, because pleasing the king brings the best result, you have been called. Not pleasing the king brings opposite result. So they setting up the scene, very much, getting into the business of fighting Krishna and Balaram. Stop of all this nonsense of people talking about Krishna and this and that, we're going to take care of business for the king. And because the envy of Krishna, they're not able to appreciate or see or understand Krishna's position. And this subject matter of envy is quite a very relevant subject matter, especially highlighted by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Over and over and over, he uses this, he brings out, he highlights this obstacle, or this big obstacle of envy. Yesterday we celebrated the appearance of the narration, the appearance of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna actually spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we get the ABC, we get the basis of, the spiritual culture. And the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita is that it's specifically tailored for conditioned people. It's Krishna's gift of knowledge to people like most of us who are afflicted by the false ego, or the conception, this afflicted by material condition. So Krishna says that, that the qualification for receiving this transcendental knowledge is that you have to be non-envious. He tells Arjuna, I'm going to give you this knowledge, this most powerful, confidential, and important, relevant knowledge. Because what is the quality that he highlights? You're non-envious. Anusuyava, right? Anusuyava is the Mogasa, Moga Karma now. No, this is not the one. Yes, this is it. No. Idantu te guhyantamam prabhakshyami anushujave. Jnanam vijnana sahitam yat yatva mokshashe shubhat. In the beginning of chapter 9, Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, you are never envious of me. I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you should be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So the quality, the highlight quality that we require to receive this knowledge is being non-envious of Krishna. And we see it over and over, like I was saying, described, he later says in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 14, he described the quality of people. He described in several places the quality of devotees or people who are non-envious, and how by this quality you're able to receive all this, knowledge. He says, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they're present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in self in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, who has renounced all material activities, such person is said to have transcended the material natures, the modes of material nature. So, having this position of neutrality, the devotee is able to achieve this transcendence, this position of transcendence, when you actually able, the word here that is used, hate, but it's the same word that is used for envy. So, without envy, you don't have these negative emotions of hate, of rejection, and that type of thing. In fact, because being affected by the material world, Krishna explains that when one comes to this material world, there is two things that comes with it immediately. Icha dvesha samutena, dvanda mohena bharata. That when we come to this material world, we come with these two main characteristics. One is desire, and the other one is envy or hate. And in a simplistic way, the acharyas say desire for Krishna's position and hate of envy of Krishna, because he has that position. We desire to have the position of being the center of all. And we envy Krishna because he is the center of all. So that already, when I have a material world, a material body, indicates that those qualities are there. When we sort of scratch and scratch and scratch, peel layers and layers and layers, we're going to find ultimately that I'm here. My spiritual master will say that that's what we're walking around with a banner that say, you know, I envy Krishna, like that. It's a sign. This body is a sign that I have envy towards Krishna. And the whole process of devotional service is to eliminate those things. And the elimination is gradual. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the elimination is gradual. And as we go on, you know, in devotional service, we go much, you know, we start to eliminate that, the features of that envy from being gross all the way to the more subtle ones. So, as devotees, when we come to devotional service, we are able, by the association of those who are non-envious, this type of devotees, to get the necessary faith to actually being able to accept Krishna. And to be able to that initial stage is called Shraddha. By that initial Shraddha, we get a sense that, yes, Krishna is God. There is God. There is someone greater. So, a gross manifestation of that envy becomes removed by that initial association, just simply by the association with the devotees. And as we go on, then we go into the much more deeper layers or the more subtle manifestations of that envy. Eventually, we have to completely eliminate it. And we completely eliminate that enviousness. Then we can actually experience the rasa with Krishna. That's when we actually enter into that. And that stage is when we're able to get into the higher stages of ruchi and bhava, which is the two previous stages to the position of prema, of love of Godhead. As long as we have the false ego somehow or other, mixing with our devotional service, that's a sign that we still have work to do, that we still have envy. And then it manifests. You can see it in so many ways that, we have a negative type of feeling towards a particular person or devotee. Some type of negative emotion, that is a subtle manifestation of this envy that comes out of the ego. Because what the ego does, the false ego does, is that doesn't allow us to see a transcendental reality. The false ego forces us to see from the perspective of our reality. And from the perspective of our reality, I may not be able to process, understand, or accept some other reality. And therefore, we go into these emotions, negative emotions. Don't like, don't good, rejection, get away, that type of thing. So, as we mature, we have to come to understand that, okay, I'm afflicted by my false ego, therefore I can be sort of accepting that the world have to be from the perspective of how I see it. I have to be understanding and open that my view and my way of perceiving the world is relative to my experience and is not going to be the same necessarily for other people. So in that area, I have to cultivate, these principles that are given. That's why it's so important for us in the process of becoming mature in Krishna consciousness, meaning eliminating all these unwanted qualities, to follow or to cultivate the qualities that is being asked for us. And specifically, Lord Chaitanya gave us this sutra or mantra that will allow us to see, okay, these are the 4 qualities that I'm going to really focus in. Trinara pi sunichana tarora pi sahisuna. We chant that every morning after Mongol Artik. Humility, tolerance, respect, and curb the need of the false ego to receive respect for yourself, to receive this type of acknowledgement. So these 4 things we cultivate. And by consciously cultivating that, then we can actually question our reactions, the reactions of our false ego to a particular situation. And we have to remain, trying, cultivate this effort, conscientious effort, to always remain neutral, into happiness and distress, fame and infamy, all these type of things. That is just the reality of this world. Is dualities after dualities, all these things, is completely unpredictable. Then you have to remain equipoise. Easy to say, not very easy to do, but that's the task that we do. That's what we sign off. We want out of this material misery. Well, that's what we have to do. We have to learn the art, the science, the art of devotionals, the art of yoga. Krishna calls it in the Bhagavad Gita. There was a very interesting thing. I finished with this. That karmis, as their study also these type of things, because these are things, these qualities, these negative qualities, naturally not only affect your spiritual progress, but also affect your material progress. So from the perspective of materially being able to control the effects of bad qualities or negative qualities, you aspire to have a much more goodness type of material situation in which there is more material prosperity and peacefulness, right there. So they study this thing. So this study that some scholars did, they explain that every one of us has a fundamental flaw, an immaturity of character, a dark side of negative tendency. This character flaw, also known as a, quote, chief feature, tends to take control whenever we feel stressed, anxious, or uncertain, to the extent that you can identify and handle yours. To the extent that you can identify or handle yours, you are doing well in your personal growth. So there's a particular, each one of us is explained, there's a particular trait that is a weakness or is an unwanted thing. It's what in the message of the Bhagavatam is called anartha, or unwanted thing. Those anarthas, they're the traits, they're flaws that this body brings, and we have to recognize them and eliminate them. So then so these people call him, chief features. Basically, there's one that is a very dominant one, and they're divided those as self-deprecation, self-destruction, martyrdom, stubbornness, greed, arrogance, impatience. So, in a nutshell, self-deprecation is the idea that, persons who have low self-esteem and say, no, I'm just the worst, I'm no good for nothing, and that type of thing. So that idea that you constantly, take, there's some, all these different unwanted or dominant unwanted emotions or things or traits of character, they usually attached to experiences that we have in our childhood. And so if you've been brought up in such a way that you constantly you were abused and tell you're not good for nothing and this and that gets recorded, and basically the person throughout their life, any things that triggers that comes into this, I am the worst, I'm not good, self-deprecation. Self-destruction means that the person, thinking, I just need to end all this, So this life is good for nothing, you do things to actually destroy yourself. Martyrdom is very interesting because it's about, don't blame me, the fault is someone else's. I never take blame for myself, I'm just the victim, I'm the martyr here, so the blame is always on something else. Stubbornness is, I just refuse. I don't, I'm not moving from, I'm okay. I'm not, don't push me. Even if the person is suffering like anything, and you try to address a thing, no. Impatience is, my way, don't get in my way. Arrogance is, I'm the best. And greed is, I need to have it all. So this is, these are things that are common that these people recognize as these type of traits. And there is, obviously, there is things that you can take that. One of the things is that you can take that and switch it around. There are certain polar qualities that you can attach to this, and being able to turn it around, which is basically you take this type of ideas, and when you start to direct yourself and your actions towards Krishna, then they become purified. And there are certain, polar actions that you can take actually to address those. But anyway, it's a whole science, that we can actually go deeper and understand the principle of how to become free from these anarthas is sadhana bhakti. That's what is being given to us. And when you take self-deprecation, then instead of trying to put yourself down, you try to turn that around by the proper understanding of what humility is. Because humility also have that. We hear expressions of humility of the great devotees, like, say, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes himself as worse than the stool, that's a worm in the stool, lower than the worm in the stool. But it's out of humility, genuine humility. So we start to understand what genuine humility is. And that, and self-destruction, right, and to try to destroy yourself and obliterate yourself, you take towards self-sacrifice, to use yourself for the benefit of others. So basically, someone else's is more important for me. So I take that. And this martyrdom thing that I'm the victim, in this case, you try to counteract it by selflessness. that is the opposite, it's a polar opposite. And stubbornness by determination and willfulness. If I'm like, no, I'm not moving, you use that strength in an opposite way. You do it for, having determination and willfulness to do something. Greed, you use, is described that Srila Rupa Goswami says that one have to have greed for Krishna's mercy. So you use that greed. I want it all. I want Krishna's mercy, Krishna's lotus feet. And arrogance, instead of being something out of vanity, you use that type of pride towards, being pride of the amazing opportunity that we have been given. We feel very proud about our lineage, our Vaishnavacharyas and everything we have, the scriptures and the opportunity. And with impatience, the polar will be having audacity, taking risk, using that, to build things for Krishna, to actually, do things, like I want it now, you push, that type of thing. So anyway, so much can be said about it, but time is past. It's already 8:37. I'm going to stop here. I know this is a very deep subject matter, and just touching it like this is maybe not satisfactory and sufficient, being such a relevant and important subject matter to understand, but that's something that each one of us can go deeper and deeper in our introspective effort to actually become a better version of ourselves. Any comments or questions? You can get the microphone. I think it's a little loud, Prabhu. This one, the last one, no, the last one on the, bring it down a little bit. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Of course, thank you for all the being here and the work you put into helping us. I guess the thought was in my mind about how back in the day, the child was raised from the age of 5 all the way up, to 25, and then, the whole thing. So we just came in at whatever, came into Krishna consciousness. So my thought is just that, a person is only what their environment is, like how a person, whatever the environment is, they take on from their environment a lot of things. So in order to be a better person, you have to have a better environment. So that's my thought and my comment. I guess Prabhupada and gurus would say, a man is just a street dog unless he has a good master, So that's why I'm here, to try to be a better person, not just a street dog, And I do know my spiritual master is the reason for anything good about me, because the way we come up is we don't care left or right, whatever, who cares, because a lot of us were raised in the street, So that's why we're here, is to be better. But we need the right environment. That's just my comment.
Yeah, nice. Thank you very much. That's a very thoughtful and, and insightful. Yes. That's why it's so important to have these places. Because, Srila Prabhupada calls it an oasis. It's an embassy of the spiritual world. And it's going to a holy place. Now, the reality is that this is the spiritual world within this material world. And like Krishna also, he has this capacity, like say, these wrestlers and these people of Mathura, they were seeing Krishna face to face. But some of them, they didn't see Krishna, some of them saw Krishna in his real form. Someone saw Krishna, although seeing Krishna, they were seeing their consciousness were not able to see properly. So we have this place, this is the spiritual world. And if we come here with a consciousness that is not the right consciousness, then we're not going to experience the spiritual world. We experience, what our consciousness will allow to experience, which is matter. And therefore, sometimes we hear and we have fights among devotees, and sometimes we see, it's dirty, sometimes, same thing, or we see externally, we don't see the internal. Same thing, it is explained when you go and visit Vrindavan, And then, so Vrindavan, externally, people can find so many faults in Vrindavan. It's dirty, there's animals, it's not very healthy. Look, the sewage is there, it's open, smells, and the Vrijavasis are cheating you. You see all these flaws, and you completely miss that is the most pure, beautiful, spiritual space that you can ever put your foot on in this world. So it's all about how we bring and what we bring, So the space is here. This space is the spiritual world. And Krishna is present. So we have to come, as you say, open, really. I want, I want to have, like you said, a street dog, when he has a good master, then you're in ecstasy. You're really happy. So we're coming here to experience Krishna and Krishna's mercy and Krishna's energy, and that's it. So thank you. Nice. One more question and then we finish. Sorry, it's just about time and I want to keep up with this.
Krishna Prabhu. Thanks for so much nice explanation of enviousness. You explained from different angles. Prabhupada mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a sentence like, there are many Vaishnavas there are many envious people in the dress of Vaishnavas. So how you explain that thing? It's no purport in that, but like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a line like that. Another thing is that suppose one person speaks something, but within him he has different intentions. Like there are people like,
Right.
the people speak like that, but their intention is different like that. They speak front something, but internally they are different. Like to some people they are like that, and like that. And the example is given like envious snake. Prabhupada gives the example like, once he went to spiritual master, he saw Bhaktisiddhanta telling to kill the snake. So Prabhupada was wondering, wow, a saintly person is telling to kill the snake. How come is like that? Then he came across a quote like, and a snake you can, with mantras, you can make it control, but envious person you cannot control. It's more dangerous than the snake.
Right.
So that's a few points.
Yeah, it's quite something. I think it's a matter for us devotees. It's a matter of maturity. In one sense, to address the thing, we have to be in guard with these things, because as long as we have a false ego, it's problem. Really, is everything that gets touched by the false ego gets spoiled in devotional service. So what to do? Oh, if we get the self-deprecating, oh, I'm the worst, I don't want, let me kill myself. No, we have to start from when the position that I'm at right now and be watchful. So if I feel myself, I'm feeling animosity towards someone, then I look inside and say, I have this bias or I have this negative thing is there. So let me work on it. I understand that this is not going to change just like this, but I consciously thinking and going through to a whole series of acts that I decide, that I choose to do to address that problem internally. There's so much things to say, but I want to stop because I want to keep up with the timing thing, and I'm asking everybody to do it, and I have to do it myself. So thank you so much for attention, and we continue this in the Bhagavatam. It will be very good. This is a very nice subject matter. Thank you. Garantara Sriman Bhagavatam ki jai.